Hey, are you thinking about purchasing a home in the next few months? Well, here's 5 questions to ask yourself if you're thinking about doing that. Hey, if this is your first visit to the channel and you're looking to learn everything there is to know about the Midtown direct suburbs of New York City, then subscribe below and tap the notification bell so you can be the first to hear about the current market here in New Jersey and New York. Hey, I'm Jeff. The team and I, we get calls every day from people just like you who are thinking of moving to one of New York City's amazing suburbs, and we love it. So whether they're moving in 7 days or 7 months, give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email so we can help you find the perfect place. So as I said, we're thinking about 5 questions to ask yourself if you're about to look for a home. Maybe you've just started, maybe you're really right on the beginning of your search and you're thinking about things, but you want to be strategic. Think about the 5 P's. Proper planning prevents poor performance. The reason to be strategic is to think out what you're trying to achieve and give yourself goals, because at the end of the day, there's a reason for why you're doing something. And we'll talk about that later. I'm going to talk through these points in order of what I consider least important to most important. And to be honest, they're all very important. They're probably equally important, but I'm just going to kind of go backwards. So the number 5 question to ask yourself when you're thinking about purchasing a home is, when am I going to purchase the home? Am I going to purchase the home in the next 5 days? Am I going to purchase the home in the next 5 months, the next year? You want to think about this because this obviously has implications to your schedule. Now, the first is, where are you currently living? Are you owning your home? Are you renting your home? If you're renting, you probably have a very fixed timeline for when that rental is going to expire, and you need to find and be in the new place and move in before that's over. So that's obviously a very important question to you. Now, if you own your home, that's a little bit trickier because you don't know when you're going to be able to sell it. If you're even selling it, maybe you want to keep it as a rental, we don't know, but you need to think about all these kind of ins and outs of that when question, and thinking about if you're selling your home, that's going to take, it could take as long as 2 months, it could take as long as 5 months. We just don't know. So we're going to think about where we're going with that. Also, are you moving for work? Does it have a beginning timeline, that deadline that you need to meet to get there on time and start your day or start your first day at work in your new location? So these are some things to think about. Keep in mind the length of the purchase process. Even if you're buying, it's going to take, a certain amount of time to find it, a certain amount of time to go through the purchase process. That could be as short as a month, that could be as long as 3 months. It all depends on a lot of things that we're going to talk about later. So the number 4 question to ask yourself when you're thinking about purchasing a home is, what am I buying and where am I buying it? Now that seems like 2 questions, of course, but I'm mixing it in a little bit because it's sort of the same group of subjects. Obviously, where is it is important. That's what we talk about on the channel, the suburbs of New York City. Is it New Jersey? Is it New York? Is it Connecticut? We can help you with that, obviously, but the what is also critical as well. Are you buying a home that's on its own piece of land? Are you buying semi-detached? Are you buying a condo in a big building? Are you trying to get something with a backyard? All these little questions add up. And, you might put in a specific search in the beginning thinking, oh, you have a wish list, right? You're going to create a wish list. That's important, but you might want to pare back a little bit from that wish list because your exact perfect match might not exist. So that's an important thing to be aware of. So when we look at the search, we're going to have that kind of fine cone, but then we're going to move out a little bit and be a little bit more broad so that when we do the search, we don't miss the outliers that could probably fit for you, but maybe they're just not like the perfect home, because let's be realistic, not everything is in existence. So we're creating this wish list, but it might not exist. You might need to customize that down the road. So that's the what. And like I said, the where, we're gonna kind of figure that out. It depends on your commute, where you're going to. Are you working in Midtown? Are you trying to get to, Penn Station? Or do you want to get to downtown? Maybe you work near World Trade Center. You're gonna go into Hoboken and then take the path or take the ferry. There's all these different things to think about when you're thinking about where. Or maybe you're not even commuting to New York City. Maybe you're commuting to some of the outer neighborhoods that some of these drug companies are located, and you're actually driving. So all these different things to think about. Are you close to the highway? Are you close to the train station? Can you get to the train station easily and find parking? Lots of things to consider there. But like I said, the what and the where, very important, because that's going to certainly drive the amount of inventory that you're looking at and maybe potentially the competitiveness of that area. Also, when thinking about what and where is the budget, the budget is going to be a big thing here, and that's going to impact what size house you can afford and this and that. So when we think about budget, that brings us to our next question, which is how are we going to buy this home, and what's our structure? What are we thinking about? So talking about how we're going to buy the home, is it all cash? Is it financing? Again, maybe you're selling your home, you're rolling that equity into a new place, you might not need as much financing. And so this is a big question because it impacts, in this current market with high interest rates, it could impact your budget a lot. Speaking of interest rates, if you're concerned about the impact of rising interest rates, I'm planning a future video to talk more about that, and I'll link it below once it's ready. We look at monthly cash flow, we talk about debt to income ratio. These are all kind of keywords that we can go into detail in later, but essentially your budget's going to break down to what your monthly affordability is, and that monthly affordability is going to compare what your gross income is. That's the way the bank's going to look at it, but it's also the way you're going to look at your budget when you're thinking about paying your property taxes and so on, your maintenance fees if you have a condo. So these are all different things to think about. Now, when we think about how, if we're including financing, then we also have to think about credit scores and this kind of thing. Is that going to give you the best rate? It all depends. Are there things you can do to improve your credit score? These are all little questions we start to ask ourselves when we get down into the details. And so now we've talked about budget, we've talked about how we're going to do it if we are financing, or even if we're doing all cash. The next question is who is buying the home? Is it you? Is it you and your spouse? Is it you and your partner? That can impact a lot of different things, because maybe you're pooling money, maybe you're doing it separately and you just want to purchase it on one individual. But also, like I said, credit score, that can impact the financial piece of it, because maybe one person has great credit but the other person doesn't have great credit. Maybe one person has high income but the other person doesn't have high income. And sometimes those things crisscross. So you're going to want to work with your financial advisor to see what the best mix of people and credit scores and that kind of thing to benefit your mortgage analysis. Because at the end of the day, like I keep saying, debt to income ratio, your debt, your monthly payment, which includes your mortgage, your principal, your interest, your property taxes, those are going to compare to your gross income, and that's going to have an impact. So like I said, if the person with the best credit has the lowest income, that might have an impact on the loan. We want to think about those things. So also we want to think about down payment. Where is the money coming from? Is it coming from that other sale that maybe it's tied up in escrow, we don't know yet, or maybe you need to sell some stocks and bonds. What's the liquidity of that? So we want to think about all that ahead of time, because once we get into contract, you're going to be sending over that deposit check, and if it's stuck in, let's say, Apple stock or whatever, and that stock just tanked yesterday and suddenly you're missing some money, you want to think about that and plan that ahead. So those are important things to think about when we talk about how we're going to buy it. So I know I just mixed how and who, but let's go back to it for a second. So the other piece that's very important, that's probably why you're watching this channel, is the who. So there's a big piece of that, which is not just you, it's also me and the team, whoever you're going to be hiring. You're going to want to put together an amazing team, and usually that starts with the agent. The agent's sort of like the quarterback, if you will. They're running the play. They know to point you in this direction when you need X and point you in that direction when you need Y. Some of the key people you're going to need on the team, obviously the agent, like I said. The second most important might be your mortgage loan officer, your sort of who's going to give you that loan. If you're buying all cash, maybe you want to talk to a financial planner, because there's not a mortgage person involved. So maybe they can give you some advice about, where to move your money around that you need to, handle for the purchase. So those are things to think about. And then when you get down the road, we're going to need a home inspector. We're going to need an attorney as well to negotiate the contract. So you need that team in place to get you where you're going, to get you where you need to be. And that's really why I recommend reaching out to a broker as soon as you can, an agent I should say. And I'd love to be able to help you with that if I can. If you're moving to the New York City area and looking at some of the suburbs of New York City, definitely get in touch with us. We'd love to help. But if you're not, and you're looking, say, a little bit further out, maybe I don't work in that area, or maybe you're in a completely different city, you just stumbled onto this video because you found it helpful, definitely still reach out to us because we can set you up with a referral agent in your area and get you going on the right path. Now with that said, I've got a freebie for you. Down in the description I put a link, and I'll link it above as well, to a buyer questionnaire to help you start thinking about these things. You can download that, you can type it in, and I'll put it in Word format so you can bring it in your computer and fill out the answers as you go along. I'm summarizing this in the video, but that can help you strategize and put it down on paper what you're trying to do. So the number one question to ask yourself when you're thinking about purchasing a home is why. Now, this might seem kind of weird, why am I purchasing? But actually it's the most important question, because the reason why you're doing something will keep you on track. That's what I was talking about at the beginning, strategy. Proper planning prevents poor performance. Well, the other piece of that is, why are you doing something in the first place? The home buying process is very challenging. Let's be honest. It's not the easiest thing to do. It's not like going on Amazon, finding that perfect item, clicking buy, and then having it in your cart and having it in your garage or front door the next day or 2 days later. When you're buying a home, it's a long process. The search is going to be grueling, but in this market, maybe there's not as much inventory. You're trying to find that perfect property that works for you. The process of bidding can become difficult because you're working with the bank, mortgage rates are moving, other people are still in the market, they're finding that perfect property as well, they want to make an offer. So even though it's the market, they're calling it a shifting market, depending on where you're looking, there's low inventory, it's going to be an issue. So think about why you're doing something, because to be honest, you're going to start to get frustrated, and don't be annoyed with that, because it happens to everyone. And that's why we think about the why. Why are we doing something? It keeps us on track. It's our guiding light, in the sense that we want to achieve something, and when we're coming into difficulty, we want to look back and kind of refocus and think about, why are we doing this? We're doing this because maybe we need more room in the house, because we're having a new addition to the family, we need that extra bedroom, or maybe you need an extra room for your home office because you're doing a lot of work from home or remote working. Maybe you're relocating, you're coming to a completely new area, you're moving from, say, Tennessee to New Jersey, or you're moving from Florida to New York. Whatever that is, you have a specific reason why you're doing something, and if you're not 100% sure and focused on what that reason is, then you might miss out on something and kind of put it to the wayside and say, you know what, this is too difficult, I'm never going to do this. Or whatever it is, you're going to start to second guess yourself. That's where we start to talk about buyer's remorse. You get into the contract phase, picked out a house, start to second guess yourself. But if you think about the reason why you're doing something, those second guesses can go away very quickly. And it just brings focus and meaning to the reason why you're doing something. And if you have any questions, you can either put them down in the comments or reach out to us directly. We'd love to help. Think about it, maybe put a comment as well. What's your biggest question? What's your most interesting part of your search? Obviously you don't want to get too personal in the comments, but it'll help get people thinking about what they're trying to do with their search. So that's our video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it helpful. Definitely check out the link in the description if you want to find that piece on the buyer's questionnaire. I think it'll be really helpful for you. And as always, thank you so much for spending time with us, and we'll see you in the next video. If you're interested in learning about the entire buying process, I've got another video coming up that talks about that. I'll see you over there.